October is Bullying Prevention Awareness Month. Today on the Homeschool Connection, tips to protect your child. Also, how can you tell who's the bully? Next on the Homeschool Connection. Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Galatowitsch, and welcome to the Homeschool Connection. Our show is designed to give you an in-depth look at what's taking place in your school system. If you've followed the news, you've probably noticed the sad and disturbing phenomenon of teenagers committing suicide as a result of being relentlessly bullied. Bullying can happen anywhere. Many children and teens are regular victims of bullying, which can lead to serious emotional scarring and problems with the victim's self-esteem and self-image. To quote former United States Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, bullying threatens the health and well-being of our young people. It's destructive to our communities and devastating to our future. Joining me now to take a look at this growing problem in our country and how bullying is affecting our kids are Monique Griffin-Gay from Leesburg High School, Carrie Hefferon from Leesburg Elementary, and Diane Blozis from Fruitland Park Elementary School. Welcome, panel, and thank you for joining us to talk about this very, very important topic. Now, I know that we're talking about bullying. I remember growing up, bullying was, you know, that kid that beat everybody up on the playground at recess, and it was really specific, and it was always about violence against another child. But, you know, in today's day and age, we have much different forms of bullying that we've, you know, really come to realize, and so it's really become a significant problem. So let's kind of talk a little bit about what is bullying? What does bullying look like?
Bullying can come in different forms. There's different types of bullying, such as verbal bullying, that is gone across with words exchanged with students and adults or anybody in the community. Then there's physical bullying, where you have touching, exchange of touching of one another with hands, feet, or your body.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of bullying that I think of when I think back to growing up.
But nowadays, there's a couple new added ones. In addition to those two, there's also what we call emotional bullying. That's where there's no speaking or words and there's no hands involved. It's more of the eye gestures, it's the hand gestures where you're gonna do this, or you get those looks across the classroom or across the playground. In addition to that, we also have cyberbullying now, which is very prominent with the social media going on and the social networking going on between people and the computers and on their phones. So that's another one that's really become more prominent nowadays.
Cyberbullying, I think, affects high school students more so than the younger ones in elementary, because at that age, all of them have cell phones, and they're all on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and I spend probably 60 to 70% of my day dissolving Facebook disputes.
Really, that's a significant amount of your day spent just on cyberbullying.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like it's happening outside of school.
Correct. It all occurs outside of school, but yet they bring it to school because they can't handle it physically until they see the individual. So that becomes a big, big problem amongst the teenage population in high schools.
And I would say in elementary, it's more of the name calling or the threats, or like you said, the looks across the way. You know, I'm going to get you, kinds of nonverbals. So bullying can take many different forms, but I think it's important to remember that bullying is repeated and it's intentional and it's ongoing. So it's not just a one-time incident. What
makes it bullying? At what point does it become bullying? When, you know, Johnny is saying to, you know, another student, you know, those hurtful words, you know, over and over again. At what point does it become bullying?
Well, I don't think there's one finite determination of when it becomes bullying, except that children start avoiding school, or they're losing interest in school, or they're coming home and not necessarily talking to parents, and maybe they were a talker in the past. And then when the parent is talking to them and they're saying, I'm getting bullied, so-and-so is doing, calling me names over and over again, or threatening to hurt me over and over again, and it's not stopping.
Right, so it's that repeatedness that really kind of keys it off.
There is a fine continuum from going from joking with students, then going to teasing, and then it goes into bullying. Joking is basically when there's two people that have equal partnership in the joking. They both think it's funny, they're both on board with whatever's being said. Then the continuum goes to teasing, where one person might have an imbalance of power a little more, where the other one's starting to think, oh my gosh, they're making fun of me. This isn't fun anymore to me.
Right.
And then when it does tip over that line, I feel that when bullying occurs is when one person is hurt or threatened by something another person says. So it could be joking and teasing for 30 minutes into a play game, but then that one person says one thing to the other, and then it becomes bullying. But it is a repeated behavior. And it has to, a one-time shot it really isn't, but bullying is a repeated negative behavior towards another.
Now, do you think there needs to be some conversation? So, I know it doesn't always happen, but sometimes the person that's being bullied may turn to the bully and say, "Stop that! I don't like it," or "It's hurtful." So, in those kinds of situations, do you think that kind of accelerates the process a little bit when the one student is actually saying, I don't like the way you're treating me, versus a child that maybe is just sitting there and not saying anything, maybe feeling some things, but maybe not saying anything? Do you think, I guess, accelerate the idea of it being bullying, perhaps?
Well, I think that children need to be empowered to say, stop it, I don't like it. That's using an assertive voice, a big voice.
Right.
But if it's not stopping the bullying, then that child also needs to feel empowered to go to parents or a trusted teacher or a trusted grown-up to say this is happening. The concern is when children aren't speaking up and not saying that this is going on.
Right. You know, as a parent, my child's coming home and I may be noticing some differences in their behavior. What are some of the signs that I might look for if I think that perhaps my child might be being bullied? What should I see?
One of the things I always say is, if they're coming home and then starting to complain they don't want to go to school when they used to like to go to school.
Right.
If you notice a change in their friends, they're not being, they're saying, I don't have any friends at school anymore, or you see them coming home with maybe physical bruises and torn clothes, that's obviously a number one sign. But just watching your child and seeing those little slight changes in how they react to school and how they talk about how school is going. And that's a red flag when they are happy 1 week and then a couple weeks later they don't want to go to school anymore and they just seem like it's...
Yeah, and I think maybe we might see some differences from primary, elementary, up into the older grades. What do you think about that?
For the high school students, it's mostly not wanting to come, not wanting to be around. They'll isolate from friends that they used to have, neighborhood friends, individuals with whom they always associated with, they no longer want to associate with. They don't like to go outside. So when you see your students starting to decline from outings, and those are normal things that teenagers love to do. They want to hang with their friends. When they're starting not to be out and about and don't want to interact, there's something seriously going on.
So we really need to look at, as a parent,
Correct.
changes in behavior in our child. They're not as engaged. They're
not themselves.
I mean, they're not
Correct.
themselves. We're not talking about, oh, my child wants to go out for a sport and I'm really excited about that. That's not the kind of changes in behavior we're talking about. We're talking about, a change in behavior that, really isn't generally a positive sign.
Depressed.
Seeming depressed, right? Great. If a parent, if I was going to give advice to children about bullying, if they notice somebody being bullied at school or at home, what would we want to tell children that they should do, not as a person that's being bullied, but as someone that's watching bullying happen? What would you recommend for us to tell our children about what to do?
I personally like to call those people bystanders or witnesses to that. And I think that I try to instill in all of my children at school that that's one of the strongest roles, because sometimes the target, the person who's getting bullied, is embarrassed to go and tell their teacher, their friend, their parents that this is happening to them. So they need to be empowered to go and report it. And I always use the word report instead of telling or
Tattling.
It's not tattling.
it's not tattling.
Right.
I use the word report. You're reporting an incident. So, but it's those people, those witnesses and bystanders, are the most important part of the triad of the bully, target, and bystander, because they can support the
Right.
target.
And also, besides reporting it, modeling the appropriate behavior, showing them that this is not acceptable. And even sometimes even saying something to the perpetrator, letting them know that the behavior is not acceptable.
Well, thank you very much. You've shared some great insights. We're getting ready to take a quick break. When we come back, more on bullying and how you can empower your child to be more confident in how they're responding to situations of bullying. Welcome back to the Homeschool Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Galatowitsch. Parents, we want you to get involved with our show. If you have a question or there's a topic you'd like to see get addressed, get connected to us by logging on to lakefronttv.com. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Today, we're taking a look at a growing problem among teens and children in our country. We're talking about bullying. Panel, welcome back, and thanks for joining us on this very critical topic that we're talking about today. Before the break, we talked about signs that a child might be being bullied. Let's just review quickly what those signs are that might be a tip to parents that their child's being bullied.
One of the big signs is a change in behavior of first wanting to go to school, and then they're coming home saying they don't want to go to school anymore.
Seeming withdrawn or moody, changes in behavior. This is not my child. What's going on? When parents are thinking about it, they're noticing their child is not themselves.
Right.
Isolation, mostly. If you see them withdrawing from neighborhood friends that they've grown up with or used to always associate themselves with, those are very, very telltale signs that there's something going on.
Right. Now, once a parent has identified that perhaps their child is being bullied, what steps should they take? What should they do?
I think one of the first things is start communication. Start a conversation with your child or children. Find out what is bothering them. If you find they're not opening up to you, please, it's always good to call the school counselor, the principal, the teacher. Extend your resources in the school system, because sometimes children are embarrassed to tell their parents something, but they'll maybe tell someone else. But having that dialogue back and forth that nobody should be bothering you, nobody should be making you feel hurt or embarrassed or whatever, is one of the first things to start with.
Right.
And I think it's also helpful for parents to remember not to quickly blame the bully, to just
Okay.
be that listening ear and say, how can I help?
So
What
just
is
because
helpful?
their child they're seeing some of these signs and they're asking questions, they should take the time to really listen to the whole situation, listen to
Yes.
their child, because as a parent, we're talking about some issues for parents to look at, some signs for them to look at, so they have the ability to kind of see whether in fact their child is being bullied.
Absolutely.
Or it's just a teasing kind of thing, or it's a one-time thing. But I think that's good that we have that conversation.
And asking how they can help the child too. What would be helpful? How can I help you?
Okay.
Also, maybe reaching out to some of those friends that the student previously had, because you'll find that the kids always know what's going on.
Right.
So if you reach out to maybe the neighborhood kids or other students that go to the school and find out, hey, you noticed anything at school
Right.
with my son or daughter, they'll tell you.
Yeah. It's parents and the school staff that's always the last to know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, but I think it's important. But I think you bring up a good point too when we have this conversation that bullying isn't something that just happens at home or just happens at school.
Right.
I think it's pretty clear that if their child's a victim of bullying, it's probably just not happening in the neighborhood, but very likely crossing the lines and also happening at school.
Absolutely.
So.
I agree.
I think it really becomes an issue of, this is a great example of why it's important for us to stay connected with our parents
Definitely.
when it comes to an issue like bullying, because it's not something that just happens in isolation in the home, and it doesn't just happen in isolation in the school, but it's really a part of their environment.
Absolutely.
It's all interconnected with the social media, with sports, different after-school activities. It can happen anywhere at any time.
Okay. We want to give parents some advice on, how to help their kids get along. And, I think we could maybe be a little proactive even about helping to teach our children to engage with each other in a socially appropriate way. So let's say I'm a young parent, I have children at home, not ready for school yet. What kinds of activities do you think would be appropriate for me to, help engage my children in that are that young, to help them to learn how to make friends, to take care of themselves and stand up for themselves, to be able to work together collaboratively and nicely? Do you have advice for parents?
I think that parents need to be more proactive than reactive in these situations, so it doesn't occur as much. And my number one thing is modeling, modeling, modeling. Students need to see the right behavior at home. They need to be taught what empathy is and how to be empathetic with other students, and that's going to start in the home and then your community, and if a child sees that growing up, they're going to carry that off into their on through school and their adulthood. So I think modeling is the number one tool for parents to use.
And even just as simple as, is that helpful or hurtful behavior?
Right.
What's safe, what isn't safe? Young children know the difference, and like you said, if it's modeled in the home, if it's modeled for them, if they have language to use that is helpful instead of hurtful to get what they want or fulfill their needs, then they are more apt to do that.
When we're talking about things to look for in middle and high school, it might be a little different than in elementary when we're looking at bullying. What might we see different in the older children?
In the older children, it's mostly cyber bullying, but from time to time there's name calling. They're just big kids, so there's a lot of name calling. But usually the older kids can push that off. Most of your bullying at the high school level is going to be digital.
Right. Any tips? What should parents do? I mean, what can they look for? I mean, we all have. I have 3 teenagers. So what should, as a parent, I look for to see if maybe my child might even be a cyber bully?
Correct.
Or being bullied, on the internet, on Facebook, on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera.
Those
What
aggressive
should we look for?
conversations, you want to be aware of what sites your child is on. I mean, it's hard because every day there's something different, but you want to be aware of those social internet sites and their aggressive conversations, and are they picking on individuals? Are they talking dirty, foul language? Are they belittling their peers? You want to have those receptors out there and watch the conversations that occur. Text messages, are big, huge, especially with the Snapchat. And then there's also, sexting. Unfortunately, a lot of kids send private parts and pictures and stuff that are inappropriate to try to lure or
Which is a
seduce.
form of bullying.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And it's unwanted and unsolicited, but it'll happen. So you want to be aware. And some parents feel as though they're being nosy or they're invading privacy, but you have to do that. You definitely.
Right. Let me ask you this question, because that brings up an important point.
Absolutely.
You know, as our children are growing up, we want to think, oh, you know, he's doing good in school, or she's being responsible.
Correct.
I want to make sure that they feel that I trust them. But on the other hand, they're not quite 18 yet. They're still your responsibility.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of a blurred line there. What's your opinion? Do you think that parents should, you know, take the responsibility to be aware of, you know, if their child has a password on their phone, to know what that password
Definitely.
is? Do you think parents have a right to know what children are saying on their cell phones, to know what they're saying on their iPads and their computer conversations? Do you think parents have a right to be able to see what their children are writing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
That's the only way
how
you're gonna
important
know.
is that? How important is it to
It's
look?
very important, especially in this day and age. Younger and younger kids have emails. They have these passwords and accounts on Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram, and they send a lot of inappropriate texts, pictures, and just inappropriate information overall.
So it's important for us as parents
Definitely.
to just monitor our children. We have a
Absolutely.
responsibility to ensure that they're, because, you know, for many of our kids, this is a new medium.
Definitely.
You know, it's like freedom on the internet.
Yes.
And, you know, freedom sometimes for young adults and for children must be monitored so that it's
Correct.
used appropriately and responsibly. And so,
And I think it should start early because nowadays the cell phones and stuff are in elementary school. The kids have access to internet and things like that. So the earlier the better.
so it's a good thing to teach our kids, hey, mom and dad have a responsibility to know what you're looking at and seeing on the internet or on your cell phone. So that sounds like some advice to parents about, hey,
Definitely.
pony
It's our
up and
job
take
as
responsibility as parents.
Right.
That we have to be responsible for that. All right. Parents discover their child's being bullied. They have that conversation like we talked about before. What do they do next? All right, they're talking to their child. They may say to their child, what can I do to help keep you safe? How can I help you? But I think if it's really a situation of bullying, they have some steps that they should take beyond that to help protect their child. What do you think are some things that they should do?
I think reporting it to the school is the key to it, because that's where most of it is happening. I mean, it does happen at the baseball fields, in the libraries, and in the community. But at school, there's so many opportunities, and that for people to talk to them and to help them. Contact the principal, the school counselor, contact their teacher. Let them know that the student is feeling this way and this is happening, and then we can investigate it.
And I think, like you mentioned, a lot of times the school and parents are last to know. So
For more information on how to stop bullying before it starts, check out stopbullying.gov. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Homeschool Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Galatowitsch. Old and new research is coming together regarding physical activity and learning. The bottom line is, brain health is related to physical activity. We're now going to toss things over to Muriel Burt for this week's Fit Body, Fit Mind segment.
Recent studies have shown that students need a brain break in the classroom every 25 to 30 minutes. A brain break is a physical activity that gets the child up and moving, like turning the light switch on and off. It's turning the brain on and off, recharging the brain, getting it ready to learn. The brain break you will be witnessing today will be one of high energy, stimulating glucose and oxygen to the brain. Let's go see those first graders. Okay, today we're gonna do our crazy jacks. And remember, crazy jacks are a little different from jumping jacks because we cross our arms at the top, so we cross the midline of the body, and our feet. Some of us are already ready to go. Ready? Go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 10 more. Come on, you can do it. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! And you may sit back in your seat. Okay. There you have it, a brain break, one that has high intensity that will help increase oxygen and glucose to the brain and get their brains ready to learn. If you would like to learn more about Lake County's brain breaks, you can go to lakefronttv.com.
Thanks a lot, Muriel. That was some great information. Today we've been taking an in-depth look at bullying and how parents and teachers can work together to help kids in our community. We're now going to turn things over to Melissa Curry from the Leesburg Public Library. She has some book suggestions for all grade levels when it comes to beating bullying.
Thanks, Dr. Galatowitsch. I know in today's show we're taking an up-close look at bullying, and I thought I'd share some resources, some books that we have here at the Leesburg Library to help kids and parents cope with this very intimidating problem. Down in the youth department downstairs, we have some good picture books that introduce the problem to children at a young age that is not intimidating. It also teaches them how not to be a bully, so they know how to behave online. Cyberbullying is a prevalent problem right now in our society with the advent of social media. We also have resources for parents located upstairs in our reference department in the form of an audiobook and other paper books on bullying and dealing with them and how teachers and parents can help with the problem. Also, for our young adults, we have resources for them as well, and for our elementary age children. So please come visit us at the Leesburg Public Library and check out our website and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you.
For more information on how to protect your child from bullying, be sure to log on to stopbullying.gov. For more information about our show, check us out at lakefronttv.com. Also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, don't break the connection,